Welcome to this episode of the Smart Leaders Sell podcast. I'm Jessica Lorimer, sales coach and leadership expert, and I am really excited to dig down into today's episode. Hey there, poddies. It is the week before the big day. Who else is excited? I'm very excited. I'm just back from Norway. I'm going to throw it out there. I want to move to Norway forever. I have always loved Scandinavia, and Tromsø is now one of my very, very, very favorite places on the planet. I am sure I'll be talking about it in a future episode and being able to share all of the cool stuff that I'll have done this weekend. But needless to say, I'll be feeling relaxed. I'll be ready to go and loving getting into the hopefully festive spirit. I'm not feeling massively festive yet, but I'm hoping that it's gonna come. By the time that we hit the end of December, I'm kind of hoping that I'm going to be there, or at least very excited about wine. Wanted to say a quick thank you. I've had some really lovely reviews of the podcast recently. And I really appreciate it when people leave reviews. It does a couple of things. One, it helps iTunes bump up the chart, which is also really helpful for us to reach new listeners of the podcast and make sure that we can impact as many people as possible and help as many people learn to sell in the best way as possible. And also, it's actually quite flattering to read good reviews. So we've got a couple that I just wanted to highlight. We had one from Muggle1105. By the way, loving that iTunes handle. That made my day to read. Back in October, that said, the best podcast, 5 stars. For a long time, I didn't get podcasts. Then I discovered this one. While I do listen to more now, it's the only one that I listen to religiously. Jess's warm humour, love of Jaffa cakes, and courage to say what needs to be said, even when it's uncomfortable, is a winner. Full of value, it also helps you keep ahead of the game and informed of new trends. Jess does some serious research and passes on invaluable information. Well worth a listen. Thank you so much. Seriously, that was really nice. I also love that you got Jaffa cakes and humour in there. That made my day. Also good to know that somebody else thinks I'm relatively entertaining. You do worry about that sometimes. We also had a really lovely one from Happy Music Lover that said, lend us your ears. Love the way that Jess delivers this podcast. I warmed to her instantly. I binge listened to loads of podcasts over a couple of days and learned so much about the sales process. What I feel Jess gets across, which I needed, was just to take action. Get on the phone and speak to your future clients. Straight talking and honest professional. I might be a lot older than Jess, 20 plus years, but I've learned so much from her. So thank you very much. That was really nice to read and I really appreciate it. I know that it can be a real pain in the backside to leave podcast reviews, especially on iTunes, because they don't make it easy. But I do actually read every single one and it does really make me smile. So thank you very, very much for those. Anyhow, we're coasting into Christmas, coasting into 2020. Blimey, is everybody ready to get rid of 2019? I don't know about you, but 2019, you can just do one now. I'm done. I am so over 2019. There have been many things in 2019 that have been good. I recently discovered the My Dad Wrote a Porno podcast, which is hilarious and has gotten me through many a long journey, which is good. You know, it's actually really nice to listen to something that isn't about business. So I went over, I listened to that, and I've even booked a ticket to one of their live shows next year, which I'm very excited about. So I found that in 2019. That was brilliant. In 2019, also, I burnt down some of my business. Some of you may have listened to a podcast episode that I recorded, I think it came out a couple of weeks ago, last week, about becoming the category of one. And actually, that's been a really positive experience this year, burning some things down to make some things better and having a really cool focus for 2020. And there's also been some interesting things. And when we use interesting in that way, everyone knows that I mean awful, right? There have been some challenges that have had to be overcome this year within my business, and not within business actually. The business has been great this year. I'm just going to throw that out there. Business has been wonderful. My clients have been amazing. I've had a blast of a time launching the new side of my business around teaching entrepreneurs how to sell to corporates. It's been ace. Personally, life has kicked me a little bit in the ovaries repeatedly throughout 2019. So, life, maybe give that a rest for 2020. And if you are thinking, oh my God, 2019 was the year that just took something out of me, whether it's personally, whether it's professionally, I'm feeling like 2020 is a year of all of the foundations that we've put in place this year absolutely coming to fruition next year. So for me, that's going to be a lot of, I have had many emotionally charged evenings this year full of wine, which next year means that I will be very practiced at drinking wine. I'm joking. It means I'll be super resilient and all that good stuff. But what I wanted to get into today was helping you plan your 2020. And it's always an interesting thing, planning. We talked about it a little bit in November and how you can plan. But what I want to do is share my plan for 2020 so you can steal some bits from it and not content. I just want to throw that out there. We've had a lot of that recently. I've sent out many cease and desists this year. But so that you can actually think about what you want to achieve in 2020 and so that you can see a plan in place and think about what you want to implement, whether you maybe have similar goals to me in some areas next year, or whether you're thinking, oh, I don't want to do that at all. I would much rather do X, Y, or Z instead. So I'm going to go through how I came to the point of creating my 2020 plan. I'm going to share some of the things that are involved or that are going to be involved for me in 2020. And, hopefully together we can absolutely ace the new year. I'm very focused on it being a positive, productive, and profitable 2020. Maybe I should get a t-shirt with that on it. What do you think? Okay, so the first thing for me in 2020 that is a real core part of my 2020 plan is focus. And this is something that's really interesting to me. I am a very focused person generally. I focus on one task at a time. I try not to multitask because I find it very difficult. Apparently, being female does not mean you're good at multitasking. Just throwing that out there for the kind of everyday sexism crowd. Everyone always assumes that because I'm female, I'm going to be really good at it. I'm not. I'm really bad at it. My brain just cannot cope. So for me, a core part of my 2020 plan is about focus. And for me, actually, in 2020, that means selling fewer things. Yep. Terrifying, right? And, in my category 1 podcast episode, I alluded to this. My business model is changing relatively drastically for 2020, which I'm excited about, a little bit nervous about. I think you've always got to be quite honest about how you may or may not navigate different situations. And for me, the easiest way to do something really well and to make my business as profitable and productive and positive as it can possibly be is to remain focused. So next year I've got a core focus on certain services that I'm offering. So you will see me promote, or hear me if you're a poddy, promote next year a lot less in terms of variety of products and services. Next year, my core focuses for live products and things is going to be on 3 courses. So live courses, oh my gosh, now I have to say it out loud. That's terrifying, isn't it? So next year, my core focuses for live commitments will be my mastermind participants, which FYI, if you're interested in being part of the mastermind this year, drop me an email, jessica@jessicalaroma.com. We have a really good retention rate from 2019. So we're not actually seeing that many people leave the mastermind, which is A, lovely, and B, I'm sorry, you guys, you got me for another entire year. How will you cope? So I'll be focusing a lot of my time and energy on my mastermind, and I'll be focusing a lot of time and energy on my new offering, the C-Suite. And again, if you haven't heard about the C-Suite yet, if you haven't listened to the Selling to Corporates podcast and you didn't come to Converting Corporates, but you want to sell to corporations and organizations next year, and believe me, this is a bandwagon, just as a side note, this is a bandwagon everyone is now jumping on. The majority of cease and desist this year were not sent in the first half of the year, when, you know, people usually copy my stuff. They were actually sent in the second half when I decided that I was going to teach people publicly how to sell to corporates. And then suddenly lots of other people popped out of the woodwork and went, yeah, maybe I'll give that a go. And we had to send out a few cease and desists for people who had, I'm going to be nice about it. Like, let's face it, let's use the word borrowed copy and promotional activities. That's very diplomatic. I feel like I've grown up this year. But, you know, we did a lot of that. So if you are somebody who's been thinking this year, I'm not sure how I would sell to corporates, I'm not sure how that would work, I'm not sure what I would sell or what companies would be interested in buying from me, just bear in mind, next year is going to be full of people who jump on this late and who probably don't know what they're doing. So if you want to get in before the market goes crazy and you get caught up with a bunch of people who have no idea what they're doing and they don't know how to do business development properly, then make sure that you check out the C-suite. Link will be in the show notes today. So check that out. That's going to be a main focus of mine. And we're also going to be focusing on podcasting that pays this year. So as a live experience, if you haven't yet set up your podcast and you want mine and Scott's assistance, it's going to be one of the very, very few live things that I run next year with Scott. We're going to have an epic time. So make sure that if you are looking to get a podcast and you want it to be a profitable podcast and you want it to generate leads for you and you want it to actually do the things that podcasts are supposed to do, get you sponsorship, all that kind of good stuff, make sure you go and check out podcastingthatpays.com and grab your spot so that you can join us live in the new year. So I'll have key areas of focus. I'll have three key areas of focus next year, which is going to be really exciting. It means that I can spend a lot more time in different areas, which is going to be awesome. And equally, you know, behind the scenes, I'll be running some one-to-one stuff. I'll be doing a couple of intensives every quarter, as I normally do. And I'll be running some weekend group intensives as well for those of you who like working in smaller groups and want to come to London and get my eyes on your business and implement and take a lot of action. In comparison to this year, and in comparison to the last probably 3 or 4 years of my business where I've sold an awful lot of courses, it's time for me to really streamline the offerings from the business over the last few years. And my focus really is going to be primarily on helping service-based entrepreneurs use sales psychology properly and with integrity, and obviously helping service-based entrepreneurs sell to corporations. So if in the past you've been interested or you've looked at programs like Cash Creation, like Supersize Your Sales Bootcamp, all those good things, and you haven't yet bought them, now may be that time, because I don't know how long they're going to go into 2024. And I say that in a kind of hesitant way because I'm anticipating that by the end of March, that is in my 2020 plan, we will have everything set up to have those core focuses for my business on sales psychology with integrity and selling to corporates as service-based entrepreneurs. So it's going to be very exciting. Focus. Alongside focus, part of my 2020 plan is also about scheduling. Yay! Those of you who've heard me talk about scheduling before know that I am obsessed with managing my schedule. And this year, there were bits of the schedule that I'm going to say because me and my team do a great job in actually really managing my schedule well. And then I do a really terrible job of mucking it up. But actually, for the majority of this year, we did really well at scheduling so that I got decent time off. I wasn't working too late into the evenings when I was having my call days. We've got into really, really good habits with batching content, making sure that my brain is fully functional and at optimal use. And one of the ways that we did that this year was to make sure that all of my client calls are on the same days each week, and that I don't have sales calls on those days, I don't have podcast recordings on those days or anything else, just so that I can focus and so that my brain can focus on being used for strategizing and information and advice and coaching. And then on other days, very specific activities booked in. So sales calls days, having a content batching week at the beginning of every month to really get us ahead on content. and make sure that you guys get the most congruent experience possible, and the best content in the best kind of delivery. And also making sure that I can have a life. So some afternoons I've been heading off to my brand new allotment. Yes, this was the year that I turned 30, bought myself a sports car, and I got an allotment. And my allotment is actually number 30. So just going to throw that out there. 30 have been my numbers this year. My allotment was number 30. It cost me £30 a year, and I got it a couple of weeks after I turned 30. So actually, doing pretty well on the whole 30 front. If there is something that number means, I know that you will write in and tell me. If you want to make something up, something that's really good, that really gets me hyped about the entire year that I'm 30, maybe seeing the number 30 a lot means I'm going to win the lottery, or, I was going to say get hair like Marie Forleo, but that's a really shallow thing to say, isn't it? But anyway, if you want to write in, whether it's true or whether it's just plain old entertaining, feel free. I love it. Love hearing from you guys. So scheduling is definitely on my 2020 plan. And actually, I sat down a few weeks ago with the lovely Sarah from my team. So if you email into Team Jess, Sarah is often the person who will be scheduling you in for stuff, and just being relatively kind and entertaining whenever we get any emails. And we sat down and we looked at my diary for next year, and we mapped out everything. So we mapped out monthly calls for my mastermind. We mapped out the days that the C-suite program calls will be taking place. We mapped out when one-to-one calls for the people who are participating in programs that have one-to-one elements will take place. We mapped out sales call days, and most importantly, we mapped out holiday, which was very, very exciting to me, and actually leads me into point 3 about my 2020 plan. Was focusing, or is going to be focusing on a better work-life balance. Now, I already have a pretty good work-life balance, but this year I really fell off the holiday wagon. There were lots of things going on this year. As I mentioned, personally, it's been a bit of a different year. It's been a bit interesting, it's been a bit challenging, and actually that meant that I spent a lot of time in the house, not feeling isolated, because my biz besties are amazing and my real life friends are awesome, but I really, really missed being able to switch off entirely, and just have a week out the office, focusing on getting headspace, relaxing, doing other things, seeing different people, different cultures, different environments. And that's one of the things that is in my 2020 plan, at least once a quarter, to just step back, step out of everything, put my phone onto flight mode, take a trip, just chill completely. So 2020 planning, the whole first part of my plan is around focus, scheduling, and work-life balance. And in that work-life balance, I think it's always quite useful, because we get into this new year, new start piece, and everyone assumes that, it's all got to be about business or going to the gym. For me, a better work-life balance really involves increasing my profit margins, increasing the amount that I can pay myself and my team, whilst delivering the best service to my clients, and actually spending less time working and more time delivering and having fun, having a life. That's really, really important to me. So that's the way that I look at it. So my life part of that balance will not involve the gym next year. It will involve more time on my allotment, more time walking Max, and hopefully a few more trips away as well. That's just the sort of thing that can give me the headspace that I need to show up in the very best way for myself and my business in 2020. And then on a work front, that part of the work balance is actually having time to deliver and create quality content to my audience, both free members of my audience and paid members of my audience. And actually, like I say, focusing on things like profit margin versus selling more necessarily, making sure that we are converting at high levels. And I've got some targets around that. I was looking at Thrivecart the other day. If you don't have Thrivecart, check out the link that I've put in the show notes for you. It's amazing. It's the tool that I use the most in my business, which is, we use a lot of tools, so it's a really good one, but it's a checkout processor or a payment processor. And it does a ton of other things. You can manage affiliates through it. You can check your cart conversions. You can, look at how well certain products are performing at different times of the year. You can look at how many times people have bought from you, like the amount of data you can get from it. If you are a sales nerd or a data nerd, Thrivecart is amazing. And I was looking at Thrivecart this year, and I was looking at our cart conversion rate. And currently in my business, the cart conversion rate is around 35%. Well, it's about 34.8%, but let's round it up, right? That's nearer 35. And so next year, my target for the kind of work balance is actually to see, well, how can we increase that? How can we increase that with the traffic flow we currently have? How can we increase those conversion rates? So next year for me might be a year where I step back, I streamline products and services even more, and I really focus on making sure that our sales pages are converting at optimum levels, and that we've got good marketing going out, that we're using really good self-identifiers and all of that good stuff. So it's actually going to be about probably working less and making minor tweaks for me next year, which is going to be very, very exciting. The other thing on my 2020 plan is making a clear commitment to being the category of one in the selling to corporates space. I am so over being best kept secret. And every time I say the phrase best kept secret, we get a lot of people who write in and say, I'm so sick of that too. Or my clients will go, Jess, I heard you talking about this on a podcast episode or in an email, and I'm so sick of that too. And it seems to be something that everyone really resonates with. And next year is going to be the year where I really, really do my best to dominate and stand out within that selling to corporates market. I don't know whether it's arrogant to say, but I kind of feel like I've started it here in the UK. And we've had feedback from lots of people that it's the first time that they've seen content produced around selling to corporates, and that it's inspired them to look at adding a corporate revenue stream to their business and things. So that's been really cool. But next year, I really want to step up in that space, to continue innovating, to continue leading, and really gaining market share, and being the person who is the category of one and that leader for the UK and Europe in terms of teaching people how to sell to corporate companies. That also means, interestingly, that I do need to become more visible in a lot of ways. And so part of my 2020 planning is about visibility and increasing my visibility next year. You can't stop being the best kept secret if you stay as visible as you have always been, which for me is not massively visible, I'll be honest. So next year I've got some really exciting plans, and if you do know anybody who needs me on their podcast or speaking at their event, or I don't know, talking to good groups of entrepreneurs about selling to corporates, please make sure that you drop me a little intro to that person, and I will be very, very nice. They will get my good face. For those of you who've ever worked in corporate, you know what that means. It's when you go from grumpy to really perky and bright within about 5 seconds, because someone important has just walked around the door. So rest assured, if you do introduce me to anybody, or you would like me to come on your podcast, or speak at an event or anything like that, then do reach out and let me know, and you will absolutely get my good perky post coffee sunshine attitude. I was going to say instead of, and then I was thinking, what are the opposites to that? None of them sound massively pleasant. Cynical, frustrated. That's not how I spend the majority of my days. So yes, visibility is going to be a big part of my plan for 2020. And for me, social media is still taking a massive backseat next year. I'm not interested. And I thought this year, I've experimented with different things. At the beginning of this year, I experimented with Instagram stories. I, posted more on my Facebook business page. Still, the only form of social media that I actually like is LinkedIn. And that's because it is easy to use and it's relatively clunky, and I can write articles on there, and every post lives on there for such a long time. So I love that. And I'm probably not going to be doing masses on social this year. I'll be using LinkedIn because I love it. And I'll probably be sharing the behind the scenes of some of the holidays and some of the events that I go to and stuff on Instagram. But I've decided to shut down my Smart Leaders Sales Society Facebook group. Yeah, that's tough, actually. Talking about it is tough. But after it being alive for, I think we're in 3 years of it now, I'm just not sure that I want to continue it. And in fact, when I'm saying I'm not sure that I want to continue it, what I'm trying to say nicely is I don't want to continue it. And so I'm letting go of that this year. That group will no longer be there by the end of December. We'll be shutting that group down. We'll be archiving it. So if there is anything that you've got that's valuable from the group, please go in. Please make sure you save the post or copy and paste useful posts somewhere. Because over the last 3 years, we've done some incredible challenges in there. I've contributed some relatively cool posts and Facebook Lives and things like that in there that are really, really useful. So if you do want those, or you do want to keep them, please make sure you do go in, you copy and paste them into a Google Doc or something useful, so that you can continue getting value from that content for however long you need or want that. Okay, so that will be shutting down at the end of December, and instead because I'm focusing next year, and I've got 2 areas of focus, one being sales psychology and one being selling to corporates. I'm actually opening a group called Selling to Corporates. Oh, the naming skills that happen over here. And that Facebook group, again, the link will be in the show notes if you want to go and check it out, because you've been interested in thinking about selling to corporates. That's going to be where I'm sharing some extra tips and tricks and techniques in between the podcast episodes that we've put out on that corporate side. So if you are thinking, but Jess, I will miss your Facebook group and I love challenges and things, it's not going to be a normal Facebook group. It's not going to be, jazz hands and dancing. Well, it might be a little bit. I do like musical theatre after all, but it's going to be a very clear focus on helping more service-based entrepreneurs understand why they should add a corporate revenue stream next year and how they can do it, and networking you guys with intelligent and capable people who are also selling to corporate organizations and being super successful. Okay, so that's my visibility plan next year. Avoid the majority of social media, set up a genuinely nice Facebook group for intelligent individuals and business owners who want to add a corporate revenue stream or who are focusing on selling to corporates next year, that will be free and that will give you, like I say, some tips and tricks and techniques to use in between podcast episodes, and to get myself on more stages, more podcasts, do more cool stuff, and become more visible in that category of one position for helping people sell to corporate organizations. Now you might be thinking, well, this all sounds great, but I listen to this podcast because I'm not interested in selling to corporates. Otherwise I'd listen to that one. Don't worry, this isn't going anywhere. We're going to make a couple of changes to it in the new year so that we can continue keeping the content fresh and interesting. There might not always be tons of stuff that I can actually sell to you, but I will still be doing, like I say, the weekend intensives and VIP days and, other specific offers for members or poddies who listen to us here. So don't worry too much. It's not going anywhere. I'm not going to do anything drastic with it, like kill it off, because I really, really enjoy having this podcast. So I'm just going to be showing up in 2020 for you guys, making sure that you do get the best sales psychology information you can so that you can use it and improve your businesses in 2020 and beyond. The other thing that I'm doing in 2020 with regards to my plan is learning and developing. I don't know yet what I'm going to be learning and developing in next year. I have set together my plan. I've thought about it quite a lot. I haven't yet picked, and I always pick a personal element that I want to learn and develop in. So last year it was health, or this year it was health. And I spent a lot of time getting fitter, going to the gym, eating better, drinking marginally less wine, eating marginally fewer Jaffa cakes. And next year, I'm not sure what that focus is going to be on, but there are things that I might want to learn and develop. I might want to learn a language next year, or something. Maybe I'll be committed to more travel. Maybe I'll learn about a specific country. Maybe I will move to Norway and, my learning and development will be learning Norwegian. That would be amazing. And then I always have something that I try and learn and develop professionally. So this year I worked with Ali, and my learning and development professionally was about becoming a better coach, getting better results for my clients, but also learning and developing my own skills so that I could take my business forward in potentially different directions. And it's been awesome. I'm working with Ali up until February, so expect to see more changes and better results right up until February. In 2020, my plan for professional learning and development is much more about accreditation. I'm so tired of the lack of regulation in this industry. They're actually accrediting and working to accredit some of my courses, so that if you do buy anything from me in 2020 and beyond, you can get continued professional development or CPD points, so that you can actually tell people that you are professionally investing in your own professional development at a serious level, and if you want to put it towards other qualifications and things like that, you can put those points towards those qualifications. So for me next year, a lot of my learning development is going to be about making sure that we go through the accreditation process properly, and making sure that all of our clients get the very best experience at the same time as we try and even further develop the learning experience that everybody gets when they're working with us. And then finally on that front, 2020 planning is about daily sales activities. Love a daily sales activity. I get very excited about selling. It's still my favorite thing ever to do. I just love it. There's something so interesting and exciting about having a conversation with somebody on how to overcome their obstacles or get them to their goal. And for me, that curiosity and that passion and the sheer fun and adrenaline rush of selling has never gone away. I love it. I get so excited. Even now, if I make a sale, I am the most excited person ever. Every single day when I look at my emails, I still have PayPal and Stripe notifications turned on, because I like seeing that the company is making money. I love that a lot. It makes me incredibly happy, and I get very, very excited. I love sales calls. I love the fact that they're no pressure and that they're consultative and that people are interesting and that they're interested in learning something new and developing themselves and investing in themselves. And whether or not they choose to work with me is really neither here nor there. I've just always loved the relationship building and the humanity that sales brings. So for me, planning out my daily sales activities for 2020 was easily the most important and exciting part of my plan. It's going to involve some really cool stuff. I'll be sharing more results. I'll be sharing more case studies. I'm going to be bringing in more experts to share different elements. I am going to be selling more, even though I know that you're thinking, Jesus, Jess, how is that possible? Are your podcast episodes just going to be adverts for yourself? No, I don't really have 30 minutes of sales pitch to give about myself, but I am going to be selling even more. And this year I've really embraced selling in some different ways. We've utilized LinkedIn for selling this year. If you were following me on LinkedIn and you saw in the run up to the Converting Corporates event, you would have seen a whole bunch of posts promoting the event, and it was so nice, and lots of people liked multiple posts and said that they delivered value whether or not they even bought a ticket. So that was really, really cool. So for me, selling every day next year is still on the priority list. I'll be selling via email, I'll be selling on LinkedIn, I'll be selling on the podcasts that I have, I'll be selling from stage, I'll be selling on the phone. Yeah, I'm just excited about selling next year. If you are not excited about selling next year, then we need to have a chat, and you need to start thinking about the ways of selling that work for you. The one area I probably won't be focusing so much on selling next year is social. I'm just not interested. Like, kind of like I was saying earlier, I don't care enough to put it all over my personal newsfeed anymore. And it's not because I don't think people will be interested or anything like that. I just get really bored. And also I don't get a lot of time to go back and respond to lots of comments. And I think that's really rude. So next year I'm going to stick to being personal. If you are friends with me on the old Facebook, you will see more pictures of the dog and holidays and things like that. Not that I usually post a ton about business on there anyway, but you know, if I do, it will be fewer and further between even than it was this year. But I will be selling every day somewhere else. So whether that's automated selling, live selling, pre-recorded, it won't matter. I just want to do more of it because I love it, the selling part and the delivery. So really do think about what your sales activities are going to be for next year. This year for me, the most successful, if I'm honest, sales activities have been email marketing. Woo-hoo! Love email marketing. We love that. Make a ton of money from email marketing. The podcast has been huge. Both this podcast and the Selling to Corporates podcast, they've both been huge at bringing in new customers, converting existing audience members, and reselling people who are already customers and clients. And that's been amazing. Just also quick side note, thank you. If you have paid me any money at all this year or any other year, I do massively appreciate it. And you know, I do appreciate the trust that you put in me and my product. So thank you if you have invested in anything. And if you haven't, maybe next year I'll put out an offer that will be right for you or meet your needs. So sales activities, email list and email marketing has been amazing. Podcast has been amazing. And LinkedIn has been amazing. Things that I didn't enjoy so much this year, I was pitched to from the stage at what I felt was supposed to be a no pitch event, and I found that very uncomfortable, so I won't be doing that next year. I personally have not pitched from the stage this year. I've been fortunate enough to speak at some incredible events and the hosts have been amazing, but I never feel like it's appropriate to sell at somebody else's very, very hard earned event. So I don't sell from stage, never really have done. And I may do it in 2020 if I hold my own event, then, which I am holding my own event. So I'll be selling. If you're coming to Converting Corporates 2020, be aware, I will be selling. So I put that out there as a disclaimer now. But yeah, that will be the only time in 2020 I'll be selling from stage, because I frankly found it quite uncomfortable this year. Being at some events and having those kind of weird non-pitch pitches, it made me a little uncomfortable and feel a little awkward. So I won't be doing that. And also I'll be, you know, I won't be selling on Instagram this year, and I probably won't be selling, I won't be selling from my personal Facebook page either. Okay. Those are the things that I won't be doing. And again, it comes down to this idea of focus. I just don't want to take on too much. Those are the sales activities that I don't enjoy as much, the platforms that I don't enjoy as much. So it makes way more sense for me to focus on what I actually love. And that's always been email, podcast, and LinkedIn. So that is my 2020. That's what I'm planning. More focus, clearer commitment to being that category of one, you know, focusing on the basics, daily sales activities, my own learning and development, getting more visible, and having that better work-life balance. Those are the things that my 2020 is going to be full of. I'd love to hear what you are planning for 2020. And if you are stuck with it, if you're thinking, oh my goodness, I now need to go away and think about all of these things, you know, yes, you do. But the Facebook group is going to be around until the end of December. So if you want to go in there and you want to ask a quick question, please do. I will be there until the end of December when that all shuts down. Okay, so hopefully I will see you in the new Facebook group, in the new Selling to Corporates Facebook group, if you're interested in adding a corporate revenue stream. And if you're not, I will still be here on the podcast. I will still be running the Smart Leader Sell podcast. You will still be getting my dulcet tones every week talking about sales psychology and what you can be doing to sell more in 2020 and beyond. If you've enjoyed this episode, please do make sure that you leave a review. It does really, really help. I've popped all the links for everything that we've talked about today, and there has been a lot, in the show notes. So if you want to check out anything, then make sure you click into those show notes, take a look, and I'll see you on Friday, where I've got a really cool episode coming up. I'm very excited to introduce another guest. I'll see you then.